Watching today's events and the news on Earth requires a solid factual foundation to identify general trends and purposes of those trends, and actually perhaps identify who is behind today's strange news and their main goal, and how to be thyself in all the events that are occurring and being orchestrated on the earth. We want to look at this from our understanding and prophecies by our ancestors. And we want to learn from the Corpus Hermeticum based on the teachings of Jgahuti, so-called God taught, who wrote, "They will prefer shadows to light, and they will find death more expedient than life. No one will look up to heaven. The reverent will be thought mad, the irreverent wise. The lunatic will be thought brave, and the scoundrel will be taken for a decent person. Soul and all teachings about soul, that soul began as immortal or else expects to attain immortality, as I revealed them to you, will be considered not simply laughable, but illusory. But believe me, whoever dedicates himself to reverence of mind will find himself facing a capital penalty. They will establish new laws, new justice, nothing holy, nothing reverent, nor worthy of heaven or heavenly beings will be heard of or believed in the mind." From the Corpus Hermeticum, based on the teachings of Jgahuti. When we look at today's strange news, we look at what Kanye West says at the death of Twitter or its correction, at the midterm elections in the United States of America, at the vote rigging almost everywhere in the world, specifically in Brazil at the moment, on Bill Gates thinking of killing committees, on the New World Order and Russian war, on the digital identity and the money and cryptocurrency thuggery, and we will look at the World Cup as a bonus. What is the purpose and what is happening with Kanye West? His confession. If you have ever felt some emotions or honor for any celebrity and gotten an eerie vibe about them, now you may know the answer. Because they appear to know a lot in the universe. They appear to have a lot of money. They appear to have a lot of resources. They appear to have magnetism attracting people. But we know now from what Kanye West said that human sacrifices, relatives are sacrificed, fathers and mothers and children are sacrificed to drive success, which is built on the dark forces and supported by the dark forces. Remember what Jgahuti says, they will prefer shadows to light, and they will find death more expedient than life. No one will look up to heaven. So you have to learn to remove celebrity mentality and worship and honor and reverence and honor your ancestors, your divinities, and yourself. If you honor and love celebrities, you are suffering from celebrity worship syndrome, which is an obsessive addictive disorder where a person becomes overly interested with celebrities' personal life. This is what they want you to behave. This is why you should change it. What about Twitter? Is it dying or is it being corrected? Elon Musk is part of the system. Don't put him anywhere. Look at what he has produced, the neural link. Elon Musk's secretive machine, which he is manufacturing so that it can interface with the brain to a computer. And they say here the neural ring stepped out of the shadows on one evening where Elon Musk revealed its progress and process in creating a wireless implantable device that can theoretically read your mind. So Twitter and Elon Musk and all his businesses are part of the system that is changing our natural human nature. Although the Washington Post says here Twitter wanted to be the town square, now it's also grappling with being a cemetery. We know that the influencers will never let it go, will never let it perish, because they need both sides of the coin to play their game. If there is a dependable source. In our pursuit of wisdom and understanding, it is judiciously practical and correct to go to that source. And that source is Ubuntu Ma'ati, where we will be able to meet modern challenges using ancient solutions. This was taught by Omene Wehope in ancient Africa. What about the midterm elections that occurred in America? It is really interesting because the two parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, are two sides of one coin. But what was interesting was the choice or the choices of the voters. It is quite clear that abortion, which is part of death, they support. They say, actually, let us go on abortion and do abortion without apology. They don't care about inflation. They don't care about open borders. They don't care about police brutality. They don't care about the criminality of specific individuals. They all think that what the Democrats stand for is good. And the other half thinks that the Republicans are the best to go forward. So, voting is a waste of time. Vote for nobody. Nobody tells the truth. Nobody keeps election promises. Nobody will listen to your concerns. Nobody will help the poor. Nobody cares. All they care for is to support and oil the system that puts them into those opportunities. When you look at vote rigging and electioneering as a system of replacing government, you see the charade, the fallacies, the fraudulent activities, because the system will not allow disruptors of its agenda. The news today has a lot to do with the battles of the right and the left. In Brazil, Jair Bolsonaro, who is popular, you see the rioting, you see the demonstrations where they say the vote was rigged for Luis Inácio Lula da Silva, who was a former president who is coming back today. Both men are members of the World Economic Forum, which is the same system for both parties. And the elections can be rigged by the system because the system wants their own member. So all elections everywhere on earth that have occurred, the interested parties will always push for their agenda, will also push for their own candidate. Therefore, we learn that the system will always affect and influence the result of any election. We need grassroots revolt to make sure that a system of putting people that meet our needs is in place at any time, and anytime they start to change, we should have the power as the masses to remove them from office. Now, we have this man here who has masqueraded as a doctor. He has no medical qualification. He has no university at all. He's just a good, clever businessman who comes from a family that was connected to the Rockefellers. And here he attended the G20 meeting. I don't know as who, but according to this Twitter, Bill Gates tells G20 world leaders that death panels should soon be required. He is an unelected person. He has no constituents that he represents other than the cabal that runs this earth. According to Gates, these death penalties are necessary in the near future in order to end lives of sick and unwell people due to very, very high medical costs. Are you paying the cost? What has that got to do with you? Who is going to be targeted? Are you not going to target people that can recover from illnesses? Who is causing those illnesses? Let's look at this from the news that is happening today. So, we hear recently that there was a meeting in Hamid, so-called Egypt. They even went on to put all our symbols. Remember our lesson in our video we shared about symbols and signs. They even went further here to show symbols of Ra and life. But you see what is missing here with life? It is the Ankh. Because the meeting is for carbon reduction or carbon elimination. But we know that carbon is the most important element in living things because of its special properties. Carbon is life. You cannot say you want to eliminate and remove and reduce carbon. Let us not play with words. Who is being targeted? Why would this meeting be held in Africa? There is a reason, because of what is occurring. So human consciousness is under threat because of what the G20 meeting came up with the digital identity, where people who want to travel all over the world should produce evidence that they were vaccinated against COVID. This was done, and humanity is quite asleep. The digital identity is for entities and for devices and for people and for things. It is there to usher in smart cities, to monitor your activities, what you buy, how much you should buy, and what you say. If you make any comments like what I'm making, they reduce your they reduce your credit score, and you will not be able to have food or financial services, travel and mobility, humanitarian response. If you are sick and you don't have this ID, you are dead. That's why they are coming up with the death panel, so that if you don't have any vaccination proof, they'll simply say go and die. E-commerce and social platforms, e-government and telecommunications, all will depend on this digital ID. These are the news. This has happened. This type of news is only 2-3 weeks old. Human consciousness, human control, free will control, and death to our soul is on hand. What about the war in the Ukraine? Some people think that Putin is fighting against the new world order. Unless he has left the Masons, we can see here Harper, former Canadian Prime Minister, Bush, Putin, and many world leaders having photos taken at a secret Grand Lodge meeting. They are all in the same club. They all answer to the same Lord. They pretend that they are enemies because that keeps them in power. What about BRICS, which is the Brazil, Russian, Indian, Chinese, and South African economies, and others coming together and joining them? Are they different from the New World Order or the Old World Order? However, what we know is that there is nothing really different. All of them are part of the cabal that is running the earth. The Chinese model is the favored one. The Putin style of leadership is what the system wants. The war in Ukraine and the fighting between Russia and Ukraine has nothing to do with the removal of the New World Order, but the ushering in of a global reset. I want to be surprised, but that's what I believe. The Chinese way of approach to ruling people via the Chinese Communist Party, how they managed their COVID measures in austere, camp, autocratic manner, the energy crisis that is happening in the world, inflation, the COP27 meeting, the abuse of our symbols and our logos, all point to that the current news are a step towards the destruction of melanin dominant human beings and all other human beings on the earth. What about banking and money? Recently in the news, Sam Bankman-Fried, who sponsored and funded the Democrats on a large scale in the 2021-22 election cycle, lost almost $16 billion. He is into cryptocurrency. Is cryptocurrency the next way? When we hear the news like this, we ought to raise our awareness higher. We need our own financial systems. Cryptocurrency, although it is decentralized, it is a digital medium that is also ushering the digital identity and also ushering in this system that is not for us. Even fiat money, which is centralized as a physical and medium, is also controlled by a small clique on earth. So the risks are all there. We are not free. We do not have our own system. As a bonus, we look at the World Cup, soccer, and you can see that according to studies that a lot of people have done and the history of football, it was started by the Freemasons. The stadium are usually four-sided geometric shapes that surround the pitch. The word pitch is a degree in Masonic terms of highness of a tone, It is a sound governed by the rate of vibrations. The circumference of a football is 22 inches. And we have two sides, two-dimensional geometric teams with 11. 11 is the number of Freemasons and 22 is the number of Freemasons. There it is. Again, you can see that. You can see here Salah. Remember, Copper and Salah are there. So in conclusion, as we are watching events and these news occurring on the earth today, we must be more than ready to return home. And yet, we want to look at what Kahuti taught us. He said, and yet since it's fitting that the wise men should have knowledge of all events before they come to pass, you must not be left in ignorance of this. There will come a time when it will be seen that in vain have the Hermeticians honored the deity with heartfelt piety and assiduous service, and all our holy worship will be found bootless and ineffectual. For the gods will return from earth to heaven. Africa will be forsaken, and the land which was once the home of religion will be left desolate, bereft of presence of the divinities. This is happening, and this has happened, and is going to continue to happen. Then, as to the soul and the belief that it is immortal by nature or by hope, to attain to immortality, as I have taught you, this is said by Jahuti. All this they will mock at, and will even persuade themselves that it is false. They will follow Islam, they will follow Judaism, they will follow Christianity, they will go and follow celebrities and today's news and today's fashion, and they ignore the deities and the gods, and they will be controlled by today's strange news. No word of reverence or piety, no utterance worthy of heaven and of the gods of heaven will be heard or believed. Why? Because we have lost it. But we should turn back and stay tuned. Subscribe to our channel to learn more as we peel off the lies and show the truths in many areas of life, including current events and the news, so that you will learn and live a life that will be fulfilling and make it impossible for you to reincarnate again in this sordid third dimension. Subscribe to our channel, hit that notification bell so that anytime we upload a video, you are notified. Your Manager Topi, Preacher Rabbi LM Dumizulu. We say Ameni.